Hello and welcome to Misunderstood, the show for all you culturally and politically misunderstood ladies or gents. We are your hosts.
I'm Kat.
And I'm Nat. And today we're going to talk about the potential link between fatherlessness and mass shootings and discuss millennial burnout. But first, we're going to start things off with our patented culture shock moment of the week. Take it away, Kat.
So, guess what's for lunch, guys? It's bugs!
Let them eat bugs. Oh, yummy.
So this article is from our very own Rebel News, written up by Lewis Brackpoo. This is a story about a couple schools in Wales in the UK who are starting to serve the kids bugs in their lunches so that they can acquire a taste for the alternative protein.
Okay, why do you think they're testing this crap on kids? Do you think it's because they're like more likely to be fearless and experimental,
I think it's because they can't do it. It's not like they can get in their car and go and buy themselves
and run away
a slice
screaming.
of pizza.
Yeah. Well, that's disgusting. Let's just test more on our children.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it's funny because there's always like that one kid who eats bugs.
Yeah.
But it's like that kid's weird.
Yeah.
Why are we trying to make that normal?
All of them are going to be weird now, I guess.
Next thing you know, they're going to be like boogers. Why they're nutritional and good for the environment.
Yeah, and I'm out. I am out.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's nasty. Don't feed your kids bugs.
Don't do it.
We will judge you.
We will.
We absolutely will.
I am.
Yeah. Speaking of fathers.
Yeah.
JK.
Yeah.
Can we pull up a tweet that we saw last week from Matt Walsh? This is about the tragic shooting that took place in Texas on May 24th, where an 18-year-old male slaughtered 21 innocent individuals, 19 of which were beautiful children. So he had a really good take, and we just like to talk about that.
Yeah. The tweet reads, start with a boy, take away his father, sit him in front of a screen all day, feed him porn, feed him an endless stream of content, give him no moral formation, no guidance, no companionship, give him drugs, isolate him. So a lot of people are calling for very, very strict gun control in the wake of the shooting. We're not going to really talk about that so much. There is a lot to unpack there as well.
And that's a nuanced topic. I think
it is a nuanced topic, and maybe we'll talk about guns another day.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, well, we can always talk about these guys here. But I really both of us saw this tweet, and actually, no, I think you saw it and sent it to me. But it's a really interesting take because we always hear from certain people about gun control when mass shootings happen, but guns have been around, and I heard this actually from Tim Dillon on my drive in this morning. He was talking about it as well. Guns have been around for a long time, and yet the number of mass shootings has gone steadily up. And people will say, well, there's more magazines. Yeah, you can still kill people with any kind of gun. You can kill people with a knife. So why are there more mass shootings now than ever in history?
Yeah, I would like to know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people too like to play the whole mental health card. And while I do think there's an argument to be had, actually, studies show that mass shooters, don't just suddenly break. They typically decide. And I have some stats on this. Sorry, one second here. Cool. In 2018, a deep investigation of 63 rampage shooters conducted by experts with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit showed that only a quarter of the offenders were known to have been professionally diagnosed with a mental illness of any kind. So basically, blaming mental illness kind of inflicts a stigma on people who actually have a mental illness.
Yeah, and many of which do not commit violent crime.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's more important, than pointing fingers even at people is we should be more equipped to be able to tell the warning signs of someone who may mimic or, mirror symptoms of someone who's about to go shoot up.
Yeah, well, especially because this guy was posting about wanting to shoot up an elementary school on Facebook. Now, It was the same day, so it didn't give people a lot of time to react, but still, social media is pretty instant. People could have you can report a tweet if it offends you.
Yeah.
How many people reported his Facebook post saying, I'm going to go shoot up an elementary school? Probably not.
So one person actually did tell the FBI in advance. So that is something you guys should look into. A girl on, I think it was Twitch, or they were playing video games or something. He basically admitted to her, and she was like, uh-oh. I don't know if it was her or if that was the Buffalo shooting, though. There have been 2 shootings recently. But anyway, the point is, in both of those cases, the police actually were made aware of these troubling sort of notions about these people.
And also, there's lots of things in this Matt Walsh tweet. And the main one, I think, is the fatherlessness thing, where I did a little research, and it turns out there is a huge correlation between fatherlessness and violent crime.
Yeah.
Huge correlation. I was on this, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, when 25% of children in America are growing up in single-parent households, like the odds are not great.
Right. And so when we're looking for a causation for why there's more mass shootings now than 50 years ago when they still had rifles and automatic weapons, maybe we can look at fatherlessness as one of the things, because that's also increasing. I found this website called fathers.com.
Oh, cool.
Super cute.
That's cute.
But they had an article about the consequences of fatherlessness. And there's just like a couple of things here. You have a higher likelihood of living in poverty, dramatically higher risk of drug or alcohol abuse, higher likelihood of behavioral problems, lower GPA, and an increased risk of engaging in crime and delinquency, and also of having juvenile sex. So crime is the big boy there.
Yeah. And Obama talked about this too a while ago.
Yeah.
We've actually mentioned that quote, I think, on the show before, about fatherlessness and the implications that has on society, specifically, I think, young men.
Yeah.
You know, because young men, I think when a child's growing up, they want to be like the person raising them that is the same sex as them, I think. You're like, oh, I want to be like mommy and wear her shoes, or I want to be like daddy and wash the car. I don't know.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I was reading this thing about how different parents, like different genders, engage in different kinds of play with their kids. So a mother will engage in certain type of play, but a father generally engages in a more physical play, like wrestling and stuff. And that allows the child, the young boy, to exercise his body in a way that he learns how to use his body and his limitations and his strength. And his father gives him like a sense of I don't know what I'm trying to say, like a sense of confidence and
for sure,
and belonging and
purpose as a boy, almost.
As a man, exactly. So when the young boy goes out into the world having not had that experience, he wants the world to see, I'm a man, I'm important here
with character.
Here I am, and he might take it in a negative direction where he will become involved in gangs or do something. I mean, this is obviously a rare example, but in its rarity, it affects so many people. Yeah. So there is obviously, well, we're not saying that if you don't have a father, you're
no one is a monolith, and we've repeated that a million times on the show. I think the issue is when you're raised by a single parent, and again, this is not always the case. No one is a monolith. There are amazing single parents out there, but mom or single dad, let's say, have to work to make a living for the family, and they're not around as much, which leaves a child to their own devices, which means they're going to go down that rabbit hole on the internet. They're going to watch porn. They're going to get into trouble because no one's there to stop them, right? And I think that's the biggest issue in society as a whole, period, because we know that the nuclear family is the basis for a strong, highly functioning, and fruitful society, right? So when you take that away, you're going to have these isolated children who are alienated. If we're talking about fatherlessness, the son can't go. What male figure do they have to confide in? They take to the internet.
How does dad react to anger? How does he deal with stress? And when he's confronted, like if you don't have an example, you might just go to television and movies and whatever else, and you see, violence, sex, whatever, drugs. It's like I think there is a stat that says like the less amount of parental time you have, the more likely you are to engage in these. Like it's not just men who are more likely to engage in adolescent sex or behavioral issues, it's women as well.
Yeah, of course.
And you might have a single parent who dedicates all of the time that they have sparingly to you and to guiding you, and that's amazing, and you're gonna be fine. Absolutely fine.
No, absolutely. And I think it's important to say, I don't think that people are born murderers. I think that's the point we're trying to okay, some people are.
There probably is one,
there are some some wild people out there, but I think for the most part, you're created, right? And your surroundings it's like the nature versus nurture aspect of things. And I think that, a lot of these kids too, they start to feel alienated young, and then they are bullied in school, let's say, because apparently being bullied has a huge impact on these types of loner shooters, for example. People who have been, harassed by family members or abused, things like that.
Well, that's another thing with the fatherlessness, it's not just engaging in adolescent sex, it's being the victim of sexual violence.
Right.
So if you don't have a parent around to watch you, you're more likely to have like, oh, this random babysitter or mom's boyfriend. And that's when kids are abused more likely. So that definitely lends to this kind of psychotic break.
Right, because it's childhood trauma that they don't know how to deal with because they don't have anyone to go to. And apparently, according to The Atlantic, there was a study of 15 school shootings from 1995 to 2001, which found that acute or chronic rejection in the form of ostracism, bullying, and or romantic rejection was present in all but 2 of the incidents. So that's huge. That's a lot. So what do we do? Like, what's the solution here? Because obviously fatherlessness is something conservatives we always talk about it, but how do we actually change things? How do we prevent these tragedies from occurring? Because I think most people on the right and the left want the same thing at the end of the day. We just don't want
less violence.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't want innocent blood shed.
No.
No sane person wants that.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, what isn't actually a healthy solution to this? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, one of the things that I wrote down was from Peterson, actually, Jordan Peterson, in his book, 12 Rules for Life. One of his rules is Rule 6, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And in that chapter, he discusses the psychology of mass shooters, specifically the Columbine shooters.
Right.
And he has a quote here. It says, mass murderers believe that the suffering attendant upon existence justifies judgment and revenge, as the Columbine boys so clearly indicated. One of the things that one of those guys said himself was... in his like manifesto or something.
Right.
He said the human race isn't worth fighting for, it's only worth killing. And that is like the darkest form of depression you can have. And I think it's like, so to extrapolate, like, did this kid who killed all these actual children, did he hate the children? Probably not. He hates the world. He's so depressed. He hated the world. He probably
hates himself.
Too. Because he's part of the world. So for me, I think the answer, to go back to your question, would be like, you need to find things about the world to love, and we need to share those things with these people and bring out the, like, for me, things that I love is like seeing people do good. Like when I go to church and I see volunteers, like they have, Bible study for kids, and people are volunteering their time. And not just that, you don't have to be religious, but like people who donate their time to help elderly people,
like serving others,
and to be silly about it. Like I can be in a really, really bad mood, but I'll see like a dog walking down the street wagging his tail, and I'm like, so for me that brings me joy. And I'm like, okay, the world, I can be in a really sour mood, but the world isn't so bad in that moment. So I feel like these people, they need to have the fogginess like dissipated and see.
They need to be enlightened.
Yeah,
like, I do think that's a spiritual thing.
Place.
Yeah,
and that's a hard one.
That is tough. Yeah, the root of fatherlessness and single parent households, for the most part, is like secularism. It's sin, right? And that's part of the reason why I think there's such a clear attack on the nuclear family in general. I also think something actionable that would be fruitful is, like we mentioned earlier, just to know like the warning signs. Like, what is this? If you're a teacher, for example, what's this student like? How are they interacting with other kids? Are they mouthy? Are they personally not taking care of themselves? Are they like stalking kids? And I think, like, does this person, like, how do they speak about things? Or do they speak violently? Do they want to be famous? Because a lot of these shooters want fame.
That's what I was going to say. In one of these articles, it was from Evie, and it's everything we know about the school shooter.
Yeah.
We've decided, like, we don't think that we should share his picture, share his name, because it goes back to this exact point where a lot of these people, they can't. So in America, fame is such a huge part of the culture, and everyone wants to be TikTok famous or Instagram famous. And if you feel like you're such a loner, a loser, an idiot, that you're never going to be famous for anything like that, maybe infamy is a lot easier of a way to get on the newspaper. And I think as a society, we have a moral obligation not to give them that infamy.
I agree.
Don't talk about the tragedy, talk about what we can do next time.
Highlight the victims.
The victims, exactly, and what we can do to prevent this, what people did in the moment, like that guy who left his barbershop and went and saved his own child and a bunch of other kids and his wife. Talk about them. Exactly. Talk about them, but don't talk about this monster, because I had sympathy for him before he picked up that gun.
Yeah.
As a young boy who was bullied and who had
ostracized.
Ostracized, didn't have his father in his life. I have sympathy for that. But as soon as you took the lives of any children, You lost that from me.
Yeah, and justice must be served, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And again, Peterson, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so Peterson tweeted last week, he tweeted the following: "We have to agree to never publicize the names of school shooters and other publicly seeking mass murderers. This is not a gun or even a mental health issue." And obviously that can be argued. But,
yeah, for sure.
It's an issue of malevolent narcissists weaponizing mass media. Stop publishing their names and the problem will end. Yeah. Maybe it won't end completely, but I bet it would be like 70% less. Like we and again, I was listening to Tim Dillon talk about this and he brought up a really good point. It's like, how many people watch like serial killer documentaries? Like I went through this
I'm
whole...
too scared, but yeah.
Good for you. No, seriously, because I went through a phase where I was like obsessed with true crime and it's like, and even when I'm watching them, I'm like, this is like...
It's disturbing.
It's disturbing, but also we're glamorizing
That's a really good point. We
weird.
Glorify these people.
We make them immortal and we do documentaries and then we have, this famous person playing them in a movie. Like that's... Who doesn't want a famous person to play you in a movie? But it's messed up that we do it for mass murders because we have
and we profit off of it.
Yes.
Like, it's $1 million industry, $1 billion. It's Hollywood,
it's
baby.
Weird.
Yeah.
And we should stop. We really should.
It's true. And we
have other stories to tell.
No, that's a great point. I think all these actors who are rah gun control, you need to stop being in these types of films and
but
productions.
Nobody looks at that.
Yeah.
Because the media, and we're part of the media, obviously, but that's why we're choosing not to talk about him specifically. But like the media has a part to play in this. Yeah. Every time you post his picture and every time you say his name, you're forming the next one, arguably.
That's a really good point. That needs to change. I think that's...
And some countries have laws about it.
That's good.
I don't know the ones off the top of my head, but I can look it up and put it in. But it's a thing. It's a psychological argument, and I think we should probably, like, if we're gonna start talking about ways to fix the problem, we should consider all the options, and that's definitely one of them. Just stop talking about the names and showing the pictures, and don't do any biopics about them.
Yeah.
Stop. They're monsters. We don't want to talk about monsters. We can talk about their victims.
Yeah, I agree. And let's talk about some actual solutions that are productive for everyone and that, of course, honor and glorify these innocent children who were murdered for no reason. So that was fun. Yeah. That was light. That was really light.
Yeah. Well, we had to talk about it.
Yeah, we had to talk about it. I would just like to correct something I said. I did find it in my notes. We have a lot of notes. We do a lot of research for this show. But
my weekend.
Apparently a girl it was this shooter that the girl called the FBI on. Okay. So that's also a whole nother...
Thank you for doing that, lady.
Yeah, definitely. And it's crazy that they didn't do anything about it. I think there's a whole nother discussion to be had there because that's happened with the Buffalo shooter as well.
Yeah, well, I know that Tim, what's his name?
Dylan?
No, the other Tim Cass guy. Tim Pool.
Okay.
He has had the SWAT called on him multiple times because people don't like him. So there is probably some sort of precedent where it's like, okay, if it's one lone person calling, like, don't send the whole squad because people do prank each other. It's called swatting. Yeah. So I'm not saying that they were right not to do anything about it, but they're probably like, how many phone calls a day do they get of people that are just BSing and wasting their time? So, but then again, it's like, look him up on Facebook.
Yeah.
As soon as you get that call, be like, oh, you know what?
He's
18. He just bought 2 guns. Oh, he talks about hating people. He threatens people at Wendy's. Like, that's on record that
pull up their online search history.
The fact that we have social media.
Yeah.
And you can check me out, government.
Yeah, nothing will be erased. It's there forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you'll notice me not threatening people. You'll see that. Like, you can scratch my name off that list.
Yay.
Like, yay.
Woo. Nice.
Anyways.
Okay, well, that was really fun. We're going to move on because we want to make these episodes easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about
millennials. And the burnout.
Okay. So, I mean, it's funny because when you first sent this article over, I was like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah. Because it's BuzzFeed.
Yeah, and it was written by an obvious progressive, for sure.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of agreed with a lot of the points they made as a millennial.
So it's from BuzzFeed. So, sorry,
yes,
continue.
they kind of, here's just a quote that they had. We're spoiled, entitled, lazy, and failures at what's come to be known as adulting, a word invented by millennials as a catch-all for the tasks of self-sufficient existence. Yeah, it's kind of true. Okay, there's like this huge narrative around millennials being lazy, and for a while even I was kind of caught up in that I was like, maybe millennials.
You're not lazy.
Well, I do, again, no one's
She
a
gets
monolith.
up at 6 and runs every morning.
Well,
But I know what you mean. We live in this world where we tell ourselves, like, oh, I'm a millennial. I can't do it. I can't do adulting. Like, I don't know how to change a tire. That's a fact. So
yeah, but that's all right because you can hire someone else to.
Hello.
Someone else can do it. But I mean, there's it's funny because like the boomer generation, I think is it Gen X? Is our parents are boomer Gen X?
Boomers are before Gen X.
Okay, yeah.
Boomer is Gen X is Spice Girls.
Okay, great.
Spice Girls.
Good to know. So those kind of people, they kind of look down on millennials and they're like, oh, you guys are so lazy. But this always bugs me because I think about it and I'm like, well, who raised us?
Yeah.
Like, whose fault is it really?
Yeah, and also we can't pay our rent with like 2 days of work.
Yeah.
Mom and dad.
Like, that's the thing. Like, no one thinks about the fact that we're the most educated and yet we have the least opportunity to buy houses. We all work multiple jobs or, kill ourselves to make rent and to pay our bills and stuff. And then
living with roommates in your 30s.
Exactly. And then also we were encouraged by our parents and teachers to go to university to get women's studies degrees without having to worry about paying for it. And you're like, well, of course we're all miserable progressives.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have a shot.
Yeah.
Especially now with just inflation. Goodness gracious. Imagine buying a home now.
No, I remember my mom telling me that when she was my age, and this was a couple years ago, so like I was about 30 at the time, she was like, yeah, I made about what you make now, and my rent was $300 a month. In Toronto. She lived in Toronto.
Honestly, even when I moved here, I was paying like $700 a month, and I worked like 4 jobs because at the time that wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot at the time, and I had to work 4 jobs to pay my rent and not fall behind and pay off my stupid theater student loans. Should have listened to my mom and dad.
Stupid philosophy.
Yeah, but like I think millennials hustle, and I think that there are these lazy snowflakes that exist, but. I don't know. I think the burnout is a real thing because even with the pandemic, we all were working from home when we weren't working at Rebel. And you're constantly on your phone, like checking your notifications. You're getting emails at all hours of the day and stuff.
Yes.
And it's like, you can't escape work because work's on your phone.
Yes. And the fact that you're working at home, they know you're like, oh, you don't have anywhere to be.
Yeah.
You can be, dinner's
During
already
the pandemic. And you're like,
exactly.
no, I have a life.
never-ending work day is what I found at my job.
No, absolutely. And it's one of the things they talk about how in this article is how like a vacation and stuff is not going to cure you from this burnout because it's kind of just like it's embedded into our nature. Like if we're not working all the time, we're not working hard enough, for example.
Falling behind.
Exactly. And relaxation just isn't relaxing.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I could be doing more.
And like you can go on a vacation, but you saved up all year for that.
Yeah.
And that you're going to be saving up all year for another one. And that you're missing work and you're probably stressed and your boss is emailing you while you're on vacation. Has that happened to you?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. It happens all the time. So employers.
So our parents didn't go through that.
Yeah.
They didn't have email on their phone.
They didn't have social media. They didn't even have cell phones.
They were like, oh, I'm gonna splurge and spend $500 for a week in Cancun. It's like,
nice.
That's dinner.
Yeah.
Like that's one dinner. Yeah. No, but like it's unreasonable. And also one of the things that I noticed with this article was I kind of felt like a lot of the things that this this author was talking about are kind of things that everyone deals with.
Yeah,
they were
as a
saying,
human. Yeah.
Exactly. So one of the quotes is like, a friend admitted that he's absorbed hundreds of dollars in clothes that don't fit because he couldn't manage to return them. That's me.
Yeah, that is a millennial thing, though.
I can't. I have millennial friends who are like, oh, I have one friend who's like, she buys too much on purpose and returns half of it because she's like,
I do that
smart.
too.
It's so good for you. Like
I make Sebastian return it. So,
I literally have never returned anything that I've bought. One time I tried to Walmart. I bought a hammock. It came in the wrong color. I tried to return it and I did it all, the shipping. I handed it to the person. They took it back. And then they're like, oh, we never received the item.
Oh, no.
So Walmart has 63 of my dollars.
Nice.
Okay. And I'm over it. But I
wonder what that is with inflation.
Yeah, they owe me so much.
Yeah.
But also I was thinking, because they talk about these lists, you have like this is funny. She said, none of the tasks that were that hard. Getting knives sharpened, taking boots to the cobbler, registering my dog for a new license, sending someone a signed copy of my book. Humble brag. Yeah. Scheduling an appointment, yada, yada. I
can relate. No,
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So the point is like, these are all normal things. And even my dad, who's a boomer, is like, oh, I've had a list of 19 things and I get like one done.
Yeah.
Then it just builds up. And it's like, okay, that's not a millennial thing. It's a human thing. We have too much to do.
Well, do you think it's, like I was going to say, like, there aren't enough hours in the day in a way. Like you're 12 hours in and then you come home and you want to do errands, but you're just so drained.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
or nothing's open anymore because for some reason the pandemic enabled every business to close at like 6 p.m.
That's another thing where you're like, the end of the day I can go and do my bidding. It's like everything's closed.
Yeah.
Even the bank closes at 4.
I know.
Why?
You're like
Why?
and
People
any
are
government
working.
thing, you're like, oh, I need to change my license.
Yeah, I need to go get my passport thing. I need to take time off work. And it's we're lucky because we have a job where we can like be like, hey, I need to go out for an hour.
There's flexibility for sure.
Are not like that at all. They're like, no, you're on the call. You're on this. You're in line. You're standing behind a counter. Like you can't just take time off to do that. You literally have to take like a full day off. It's so ridiculous. So it's not just millennials that are losers. It's a society. We ask way too much of everything, of people. And we want things that we saw our parents have. We want to buy a house. Good luck.
Well,
Good luck.
That's a great point too, because we've talked about this before on the show, the self-love movement. Okay, well, I need to do this to better myself, to feel better, to relax and all this. But those things also cost money. So it's a very lucrative business.
I know. Well, that's why it's so funny. Like, that's a great point. Like when people are like the media or articles are like online.
To help you unwind.
Yeah, help you unwind. Buy this mini fridge for your face creams.
Yeah.
Like, self-love, self-care. It's like, okay, I don't have $150 for a freaking mini refrigerator for beside my bed for my night cream, which also costs
$100 million because we have to stay young forever.
We look at us.
Yeah. Is that no? It's not a wrinkle. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think what needs to happen with these generational divides is that we need to understand where each other is coming from
and the state of the world.
And the state of the world for sure, because it is. I'm not complaining. I know I'm very blessed and stuff, but it gets tricky. It gets tricky being a millennial who's worked very hard to get to where you are, and you're like, I am exhausted for some reason.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the things that Pierre Poilievre was saying on his podcast with Jordan Peterson was that one of his constituents in, where is he, Carlton?
Carlton, yeah.
One of his constituents, so this guy works the same job that his mother worked when she was his age, and she, with that money, it was like not the best job, but it's a job. She could feed her family. She paid the rent on the mortgage on their home. This guy, he can't afford to buy a house. He works the exact same job, but it's like he can't afford any of the things that his mother could afford. He literally is the exact same position. And it's like, whether or not Pierre Poilievre can fix that, I'm not sure. But it's a fact of life that we work just as hard, if not harder, for less.
Yeah. No, that's literally a statistic. So look it up, people. And again, we don't want to complain here, but I think it's important to highlight that everybody's tired.
Yeah, we're tired.
We're tired.
Yeah, I think that's why there's so many coffee shops everywhere.
Yeah, and so many new makeup lines, skincare lines.
You need to cover those bags. Yeah. Everything's about covering up your bags. Yeah. It's like, can we just fix the world so that we're not all like drained? Like you need coffee. You need a little pick me up. You need some concealer. Yeah. Why don't we examine what's happening in the world? I don't know what the answer is.
Me either.
We need to just...
Well, okay, maybe there is an answer, though. Maybe these conservative politicians who are currently campaigning to become the leader of the Conservative Party, let's say, maybe it's time for y'all to say, hey, maybe I should try to make life actually easier and in a productive, non-socialist way for millennials to be able to be successful. Maybe it is a political issue. Yeah. Maybe it is. I don't know.
It kind of goes against my personal philosophy of freedom.
Yeah, me too.
But there are sometimes needs for
government. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, no, it's true. And I think, so many of our generation votes like NDP or Liberal, and I think it's because they've worked so hard that they feel like they're owed something. And you're not technically ever owed anything in life. The things you get are a privilege, but I think it would be nice if people who worked their asses off every day were able to buy themselves a home. And maybe this is why people aren't having kids, because it's I can't afford a home, so why would I have a baby?
It is. There is a thing where the more education and higher job you have, higher position you have, the less likely you are to have children, or you're going to have fewer children.
Right.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. And we need to, Bill Gates doesn't want us to, y'all, but we need to start reproducing. So let's make things cheaper for millennials.
Maybe having a little bottle of wine with dinner tonight. Nice. That costs money though.
Yeah. But
buy domestic.
If you would like to buy us wine. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, well, I think that's the show. Hopefully the end of that wasn't too much of us complaining, because
we're not complaining.
We're not complaining.
It's just a real problem, and it's not just going to affect millennials. It's going to trickle down to Zoomers and everyone below them.
It's don't be surprised when millennials vote for progressives who offer them free things, and of course, nothing is free.
Yeah.
But
you pay for it with your taxes.
Even Steve Bannon said this once, like, you really can't blame them for being flaming commies. That's not a direct quote, by the way.
You're paraphrasing.
A lot of creative license was taken in this moment. Anyway, okay, well,
that's the shirt.
That's the shirt. Thank you guys for watching. As you know, this show is available on Rebel News Plus every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yes. And if you don't subscribe to Rebel News Plus, you can listen to the show, just the audio, because you can't see what's going on here, on all your favorite streaming platforms for free.
Yahoo! And then on Saturdays at 2 p.m., you can also watch the show for free.
There you go.
At watchmisunderstood.com, or if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, it's available there. That's Watch Misunderstood Show. So please subscribe. Help us monetize. Let's give Rebel News a few bucks, eh?
Yeah, eh?
And follow us on social media.
Yeah, we are your hosts.
I'm Nat.
And I'm Kat.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.